chapter 14, entitled King Chitraketu's Lamentation, text number 6. Parikshit Maharaj the great descendant of the Pandavas, who had the supreme fortune of directly seeing Krishna and feeling Krishna's love within the womb of his mother, who from the moment of his birth was searching for Krishna. Like a wealthy person who had lost his treasure in life. He saw Krishna. Now he was born into the royal dynasty, the sole survivor of the Pandava dynasty, who was soon to be enthroned as the next emperor of the world. But he was like a man who had a fortune and lost it all, because he could no longer see Krishna. He longed, he prayed for that treasure to return. And wherever he went throughout his life, he was observing, watching, looking for Krishna. Krishna tells in Gita, for one who sees me everywhere and everything in me, for him I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. If we're looking for Krishna, we will see Krishna everywhere. In separation, within our heart, we see. When Krishna was in Vrindavan, the gopis were seeing him with their eyes. But after he left for Mathura and then Dwarka, they could not see him with their eyes. But in their separation, they were seeing him within their heart. And therefore, everywhere they looked, at every leaf of every tree, every flower, every house, every person, they remembered Krishna. In remembering Krishna, we see Krishna internally. To always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna is the process by which we see Krishna. This is the very essence of bhakti, how to remember Krishna. All of the 9 processes of devotional service are ways in which we can intimately remember Krishna. By offering the fruits of our activities to Krishna, according to our particular position in the Varnashram Dharma, that is a preliminary state of devotional service. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was told in Udupi by some of the leaders there, that the path of perfection is to perform one's duties according to varnashram for the pleasure of the Lord. The Lord considered, yes, but that is not the real perfection. That is external bhakti. And he quoted Prahlad Maharaj, what the real aim of life is and how to achieve it. Sravanam kirtanam smaranam padasevanam archanam bandhanam dasyam sakyam atma nivedanam. These 9 processes of devotional service, beginning with hearing, chanting, and remembering. Because in following these 9 processes of devotional service under proper guidance, we absorb ourselves in always remembering Krishna. All the rules, all the regulations of all the scriptures are all meant to serve these 2 cardinal principles. To always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu especially taught the most honest and effective way of cultivating this remembrance of Krishna in a mood of separation. Because we cannot see him everywhere with our eyes. But if we're searching for him, if we're looking for him, we remember him. When you're longing to see someone, that remembrance is very powerful. It can distract your mind away from everything else. Not just a casual remembrance. In ordinary religious ritual, we may not remember at all. We may be thinking of something completely selfish or material while we're performing our puja. But when there's actually the pang of separation, then whether we're performing a ritual or not, we'll be absorbed in remembrance. So this is the great mercy Parikshit Maharaj received. Before he was even born to see the light of the world, he saw Krishna. Before he saw his mother or his father or the light of the day, he saw Krishna. The womb is a very dark place. I don't remember specifically, but it seems that it would be a very dark place. 9 months in the womb of a mother. During the last duration of that confinement, the embryo is conscious, seeing, feeling, tasting, aware of the pleasures and pains it's undergoing, completely bewildered. In that womb, the Brahmastra was coming right at Parikshit Maharaj to kill him. A very sensationalistic abortion, to say the least. Ashwatthama was determined to kill. And he was so expert. He could take a weapon like a Brahmastra that had up the power to destroy an entire planet and direct it specifically at an embryo in a womb and it wouldn't even harm the mother. He was a real yogi. So the Brahmastra was coming. The child couldn't do anything. The child didn't know what is what. But his mother, Uttara, she loved her child. She would give her life 1,000,000 times in a second to protect her child. And she was helpless. Similar to Draupadi. When Draupadi was in a very dangerous condition of life, about to lose that which was more sacred to her than anything else, her chastity. Because her chastity was a very intimate and integral part of her identity with her husband's. For a woman to violate chastity is the ultimate offense against the husband. And for someone like Draupadi to offend the husband, to offend God, is worse than death. So she was praying, but she was helpless. But she cried out with Krishna with such feeling that Krishna came to save her. Uttara is in the same situation. Her own child, her only child, was about to be killed. And there was no question of another child, because her husband was already dead. And there was no question that she would ever remarry. So that was it. If she wants to be a mother, it's it. It's the one and only chance. Husband's dead. She cried to Krishna. And this is a very philosophical principle. That we are covered in the darkness of ignorance. Om agyantimirandasya gyananjana chalakaya chakshurun militam yena tasmai sri gurave namaha. The conditioned soul is like in the womb of material nature, in the womb of ignorance, in great darkness, where there is danger at every step. So many inflictions will come upon us. What is our possibility of approaching God? But when the great souls, like Uttara, prayed to save her son, if great souls pray for us, bestow their mercy upon us, then Krishna will come and save us too. But then we have to be willing to be saved. That is the principle. At the Pune Yatra, our dear Gaurvani Prabhu, who made us dance and sing so joyfully with his kirtans, at the end, if you remember, he was expressing very sincerely from his heart that the only reason I'm a devotee at all, or I am where I am, was due to the prayers of my mother. Do you remember? He meant it. He's grateful. He was born a devotee, but he was distracted, like so many people when they reach their teenage years in America. But despite how hard he tried, His mother's prayers attracted Krishna to pull him back into a joyful, blissful life of Krishna consciousness. And he knows that, and he's grateful. Srila Prabhupada's disciples, they asked Prabhupada, what was our qualification for coming to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement, which is directing us to Goloka Vrindavan? He said, you had no qualifications. I made your qualifications. Anjaladuta, he was praying to Krishna to be an instrument to save us. He was praying to Krishna to speak through him to enlighten our hearts. In the darkness of the womb of material existence, he prayed and Krishna appeared. That is the reality. So Prahlad Maharaj, he describes the 9 processes of devotional service to his father. In this sense, Hiranyakashipu was really in the darkness of ignorance. And what saved him? Not his mother's prayers, not his father's prayers, his son's prayers. After Prahlad describes the 9 processes of devotional service, he explains to Hiranyakashipu that really the only possible way to follow these 9 principles of bhakti properly, Naishammatis tavat urukramangrim sprishatyanartha pagamo yatartha mahiyasam padarajobhishekam viskinchananam navranityavat. One must have the blessings of great souls. Narada Muni prayed for Prahlad. Prahlad prayed for Hiranyakashipu. Srila Prabhupada's praying for all of us. This is a disciplic succession of being prayed for. If we take the dust of the feet of the great souls and make that our life and soul, that means by becoming the servant of the servant of the servant, then Krishna will enter into the dark womb of our consciousness and give us light. That is the path back to Godhead. And actually there's no other way. Rupa Goswami tells that how does one really come to the path of devotional service? We can give so many explanations, but in essence, it comes down to only one thing. Nobody can come to the path of devotional service without receiving the mercy of a Vaishnava. Parikshit Maharaj received so many blessings. And he was a perfect person. He ruled the kingdom in such a way that he made the world Krishna conscious. And even Kali had to stand back. What a soul he was. We see today how much influence Kali has over this planet. What is the power of Kali? Tremendous energy. Here is one man that forced Kali down to his knees to bow his head, and who could not, he had to beg Parikshit Maharaj, give me somewhere. I have, as long as you're king, there's no place for me. I can't even enter into a cell into an amoeba as long as you're king. Give me some place, because I need somewhere to rule. I'm a so-called Kshatriya too. Parikshit Maharaj says, wherever illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat eating are, that's your kingdom. You can rule and control over anyone who's doing that. And what was Kali's response? There's no such thing as those sinful activities in this world, as long as you're king. Nobody would ever dare to do that. Everyone's Krishna conscious. So still, there's no place for me to go. You can wreak the havoc of quarrel and hypocrisy, and through that process, degenerate religious principles, create conflict, war, hatred, envy, and all other vices. To your heart's content, wherever there is the greed for wealth, greed for gold. And we see how due to this greed, so many sinful activities are coming in this world. And so much fighting and hatred and envy. Yesterday, a very, very, very wealthy person was speaking to me, who was in another country, and said, in the villages, the people are so poor, but they look so peaceful and happy. Haribol. That's because they're not greedy. Whatever little they have, they share with each other and they're happy. Narada Muni, he cursed Nala Kuvera and Manigriva to become trees out of his mercy. Srila Prabhupada explains very nicely how greed for wealth is such a source of misery. We think we need more. With wealth comes prestige and power, and we want more and more. But as long as we're using it for our own selfish purposes, we're just taking a noose or a rope around our neck and we're just pulling it tighter and tighter and tighter with every paisa we get. Unless we're using it in God's service. That is a fact. But Kali keeps us in this delusion, this illusion. Simple living, high thinking is what Krishna consciousness is about. Factually, Parikshit Maharaj was emperor of the world, as was Yudhisthira, but they lived the life of simple living, high thinking. They didn't have greed for anything. They didn't have attachment. They used it all for Krishna. They used it all for the benefit of others. And they had what they had. And they used it properly for their family as well. But there was no pride or no greed. These things kill. They murder. They terrorize. They slaughter the good qualities of the soul. Hare Krishna. Radha Gopinath are expert at special effects in this time. So Narada Muni was so merciful to Manigriva and Nala Kuvera that he took them from the beautiful bodies of demigods and the heavenly planets, the sons of Kuvera, which means they had access to all the wealth of their father, the treasurer of the heavenly worlds. They were enjoying the most beautiful women and having so many facilities in every way to just enjoy. And the next moment, they had the bodies of trees. No more nice heavenly flesh, but bark as flesh. Nobody could look at their eyes. They had all these arms all over the place, struggling all over. Arjun trees, they're not very beautiful trees, if you've ever seen them. For 100 years, to live as trees. Hare Krishna. And when they actually, in that state, when they saw Krishna, if they saw Krishna as Manigriva and Nala, they probably would have made an aparad to him. Yes, because they were too puffed up. Duryodhana saw Krishna and he just made aparads. Shishupal saw Krishna, Dantabhakra saw Krishna, Dushasana saw Krishna. So many people, Hiranyakashipu saw Krishna, Kamsa saw Krishna. Unless we have the consciousness of humility and devotion, even if you see Krishna with your eyes, you will not appreciate. Because Krishna reveals himself according to our service attitude. So as trees, they were really humbled. They couldn't even walk. Can you imagine? It's one thing to be a tree with the consciousness of a tree. But they had the full consciousness of demigods with the body of a tree. Imagine that. They were accustomed to flying around on their flower airplanes anywhere they wanted, doing anything they wanted, eating anything they wanted, drinking anything they wanted. Every comfort in the world was theirs. You know, sometimes, even as a little human being, you have very little facility in comparison to do anything. But if you hurt your back and the doctor says, lay in your back bed rest for 8 weeks. It's a long 8 weeks. Yes? Can't do it. You can't move. Can't get up. So many things you want to do. Or you may have to fast for some time. Just drink water. That's all trees get to eat, right? They were eating fine heavenly foods, and now all of a sudden all they get is just water that falls from the sky. And if there's no water, if it doesn't rain, you just wait. They had the full consciousness of demigods. Beautiful ladies are walking by and there's nothing, they don't even look at them. Here they are, big demigods, respected by the other devas as the sons of Kuvera. And now dogs are coming and passing urine on them. You're laughing, but they were not laughing. They had to get used to this new lifestyle. It's culture shock. But then they got to see Krishna. And they were so much purified by the experience of suffering and pain that in the bodies of trees they were watching Krishna's Leela. They couldn't even speak. Can you imagine? You can't speak, you can't move. To stand in the monsoons and the cold winters. And winters are cold in Vrindavan. Summers are hot. People are coming unto you to get, but there's no shelter. Very difficult. But they praised Narada Muni. He was so kind. He freed us from our greed for wealth, so that we were actually receptive, that when we saw you, we could know you, we could love you, and we could surrender to you. Parikshit Maharaj, this was his power. Single-handedly, he subdued Kali, had him bowing his head at Parikshit Maharaj's feet. And he was not just a ruler who sat in an office. He regularly traveled the entire planet, personally, to make sure everyone was satisfied, to make sure spiritual principles were being upheld, and to uproot the evil. Such a king. And he was cursed to die for a small mistake. But like so many stories in the Bhagavatam, it really was only apparently a mistake. Ultimately, it was Krishna's will. How is Parikshit Maharaj, who was so totally self-controlled, who was so compassionate to all living beings, who was such a protector of the Brahmins, why would he become angry at a Brahmin just because he was thirsty? Yes? It was completely out of his character. It was really out of his character. And he didn't do anything so wrong, but he just considered that this Brahmin is impudent. He's not welcoming a guest that comes to his house. You didn't even give me a garland? Well, here's a garland for you. And he put a dead snake on his shoulders. And for that, Sringi, the son of Samik Rishi, cursed him to die in 7 days. Kali somehow or other got right into that son and made that curse so that he could rule. Parikshit Maharaj actually was just a puppet of the Lord to make that mistake for a higher purpose. Srimad Bhagavatam, the crest jewel of all knowledge, was to be spoken by Shukadev Goswami. And Krishna wanted to set the scene in the most exciting, dramatic possible way so that people would take this message very seriously. I have been told by capitalists of this country and others who are in propagating various consumer goods that advertising and packaging is such an important part of convincing people to buy a product. Yes? Well, Krishna wants everyone, as many people as possible, to take this Srimad Bhagavatam seriously. So he set the stage. He created this package where the king of the whole planet was cursed to die in 7 days. What is he going to do? Yes? Now, if George Bush was cursed to die in 7 days, but he's only the king of, not even the king. In a couple years, he's gone, right? King means for life. He's just, 8 years. And the majority of the country and the world do not have so much love for him. If he was to be cursed to die in 7 days, it probably wouldn't be such big news anyway. So I delete that example. But Parikshit Maharaj was loved by everyone. This is amazing. What is he going to do? He gives up everything. He goes to the bank of the Ganges at Shukatal. Have any of you been to Shukatal? Krishnananda Prabhu, you have been everywhere. It's a very nice place. There's a banyan tree there, and that is where Shukadev Goswami spoke to Parikshit Maharaj. And this was such a dramatic event that all the rishis, the sages, and all the learned people from the entire universe came to that place to be with the king as he was going to die. And there he inquires from Sukadev Goswami. Now, Srila Prabhupada explains, and the acharyas say the same, that Parikshit Maharaj had so much power, he could have counteracted that curse if he wanted to. He was not an ordinary being. He could have punished Shringi, that foolish boy, for this curse. But he sought no retaliation. He wanted no revenge. He didn't even want to protect himself from dying. In fact, he considered this an opportunity. Life is not, Shukadev Goswami tells him in the second canto, human life is not meant for quantity. Better one moment of full consciousness than to live a long life without. So, yes, Parikshit Maharaj welcomed the curse as the grace of God. Tatenu kampam susamikshamano bunjana evatmikritam vibhagam haridvagvapurvir padatam namaste jivetaya muktipate sadayabhak. This is Krishna's grace. He's trying to help me. And he wanted to utilize every moment of that 7 days for the highest purpose, to hear and chant the glories of the Lord. He received the blessings of so many great devotees. And he sat at the feet of Sukadev Goswami. And presented himself as a most fallen, ignorant person. Although he was so learned, so Krishna conscious, he didn't think anything good of himself. He simply humbled himself. That is the quality of a great soul. Parikshit Maharaj is sitting there on Mother Ganga's bank in the presence of Vyasadeva, Narada Muni, Vasishta Muni, Vishwamitra Muni, Devala Muni, Bhardraj Muni, Angira Muni, Agastya Muni, all the great celebrities, they were all there. And they have these Bollywood events where all the big stars gather together. I see in the hoarding star-studded event where they're there and look, I don't know the names of any of your people, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry, actually, I'm very happy. But I don't know the name of a single Bollywood person. As far as Hollywood, I know some people from the 1960s, but I'm safe because most of them are either old or dead. But But if you go to such an event, oh, look, there's that pearl. Oh, and look at there she is. You know who that is? Yes, of course I know who that is. It's very, when there's some kind of social event and all these big people are there that are so world famous and so great. It's quite thrilling experience, isn't it? Well, can you imagine? Every great sage and rishi from the Puranas, whatever time they lived, even if they lived 1,000,000 years ago, they still came. They were all there. Look, it's Vyasadeva. Live in person. And there were thousands of such rishis. Who we read about, who we hear about, who we pray for. The gurus of the greatest personalities that ever lived, they were all there. It's amazing. All out of love for Parikshit Maharaj. Such blessings. So we find Parikshit Maharaj totally engrossed in the Srimad Bhagavatam. A little later, when it comes, he's going to tell Shukadev Goswami that previously, this is in 10th canto actually, previously, when I was just a few hours, I had no water. I was so thirsty that I made that mistake and offended Samik Rishi. But here, I have not had a drop of water or any food for many, many days. And I haven't even slept. And I'm not feeling the slightest bit of hunger, thirst, or fatigue. Because I'm being nourished by the flow of nectar that's coming from your mouth in the form of the narrations of Krishna Katha. He was absolutely absorbed in Krishna Katha. The best way to remember Krishna is to be absorbed in Krishna. Krishna consciousness is about absorption. Absorbing our minds, our hearts, our consciousness in Krishna. When we're performing devotional service, if we do it casually, there'll be minimal purification, minimal benefits to us, and we give minimal pleasure to Krishna. Because Krishna doesn't want the thing we do. Krishna wants our consciousness. Because our love is about our consciousness. So we should absorb ourselves. And Prabhupada was expert. Srila Prabhupada taught us that if you're really striving to do your service the best you possibly can, then you're absorbed in your service. Whatever we're doing, we should do it with our full heart, with our full consciousness, because it's for Krishna. If you're making a garland for Krishna, absorb yourself, make it the best way for Krishna.